Chip. Welcome everybody again to the next installment of the Trusted Board Talks. Before we get started, before I introduce everybody and what we're going to kind of go over today, just a disclaimer: the views are our views and our views alone. They have no bearing on our Grand Lodges whatsoever. So our views are literally just that, our views. However we see things is how we're going to call them. We're going to kind of call them black and white, for better lack of terms. So anything straight out of Constitution, ritualistic, we're going to call it what it is. Having said that, good evening to my brothers. Aaron, you want to introduce yourself, sir?
Herman, you want to go first?
Yeah. Hey, this is hey brother Trey. Happy to be here. This is gonna be a good one, a really good one, starting our constitutional series. So looking forward to it. Yeah, let's get into it.
I am Brother Bullock, Brother Aaron Bullock. Happy to be here. This is a good conversation, and it's a good conversation with good brothers who have a lot to share. It's good to be in the company of guys who think. Full stop.
Well, Aaron, this is definitely the constitutional corner for everybody listening. It is Aaron's. This is Aaron's corner, right? We're going to, piggyback for better lack of terms off of what's being said and understood, and provide insight from what we think. And as of yesterday, for my iPhone Apple users, the Chessboard Talks is now on Apple Music under podcast, also on Spotify. So you can see it Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. So we're very excited about that. But Aaron, I yield to you, sir.
All right, so look, we can jump into this. I know that we sent out, or at least I sent it to those of us that cast a sort of a study outline. Did you send that out, Doc?
I thought everybody had it because that was straight. That was a link on the text message.
I don't mean for us. I mean for other people. So I'm just
No,
gonna
no, 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 no.
I'm just
This
gonna
was
run
this
through it a
is
little bit, just so
yeah. This
people.
was internal. Yeah, this was
So
internal.
for us, there are a couple things we're going over today. Is about understanding membership and jurisdiction. And the sections, at least in the document, the Constitution we're looking at, are and it will be there will be some uh, approximate portion in any constitution. So we're going to look at general provisions, articles of incorporation, the 18th landmark, Masonic code. We're going to look at the types of lodges, which are essentially your subordinate blue lodge, your research lodge, and the occasional lodge, the eighth landmark. We're going to look at in ours again, Grand Lodge of Jurisdictional Authority is Article 3, Masonic Code again, and then we're going to look at lodge membership qualifications. That's under membership degrees and advancements, lodge jurisdiction and territorial limits, uniform code of bylaws, membership rights and duties, review sections detailing rights and responsibilities, initiation of membership, again, uniform code of bylaws, and then transfers, affiliations, and demits. And that's going to be under demits and entitlements. So I'm sure we can put those or some link to something in a chat after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah, I should be able to do something. And
Yeah.
the fact that we're live on YouTube, I'll have to kind of mute myself from going to YouTube and maybe answer some of the chat. So, for the
All
YouTube listeners that are tuning in, definitely feel free to commentary on the chat, and I'll be monitoring the chat in between discussions.
right. So we're going to try to get through this pretty efficiently. But let's do this. If you guys have questions, just jump in and stop me. I won't be look. I'll be looking at my screen. I won't be looking at
I got you.
my cohort here. Uh, so here we go. Constitutional corner, constitutional teachings from the craft, and this again is episode number 2, membership and jurisdiction. I am Aaron Bullock. Today we are going to continue our journey through our Masonic Constitution. Last episode, we talked about the foundational understandings of what the Constitution is, why it matters, and its historical roots. Today, we're going to focus more closely on membership and jurisdiction. In other words, defining clearly who we are as Masons, how our lodges are structured, and what binds us together in brotherhood across our jurisdiction. And again, this is all based on our Constitution, which I posit is the scaffolding for any craft anywhere in the world. So, part one, understanding membership in this jurisdiction. Membership is at the heart of Masonry. It's about identity, belonging, and shared obligation. According to our Constitution, membership within the jurisdiction is explicitly defined and carefully regulated. It begins with initiation and progresses through a Mason's advancement in the craft. Who can be a member? Membership in our organization, per the Constitution and traditional Masonic practice, generally requires one, being a man at least 21 years of age, two, a professed belief in a supreme being, It doesn't say which supreme being, it says a supreme being. You get to choose it. You just have to believe that there is a being greater than you. Good moral character and a sound reputation in the community. This is one that is a little bit maybe controversial. Freeborn, which is a historical phrase interpreted today as being free from undue coercion or compulsion. However, that's not what its original intent was. Its original intent was that you were not born a slave and were not a slave. Recommendations by existing Master Masons, approval by unanimous ballot, and successful initiation into the lodge. Beyond initiation, membership includes maintaining good standing, which means being current on dues, regularly participating in lodge activities, and adhering to the moral and ritual standards of Freemason. Want to talk about that?
Yeah, go ahead, Milton. Jump in. You're muted, but I know you have the pretty good commentary. I'll come behind that because I definitely have some stuff to tack on the back end.
Yeah, I'm good for now. I'm tracking. I think it's interesting to note, and this is going to go down another, rabbit hole.
Of course.
But the freeborn piece. I think we're going to
Yep.
have to unpack that a little bit later, because when we're talking about Prince Hall, I don't think we can just glaze over that portion specifically. You know,
Yeah,
I like
I don't
I like
disagree.
Unpack it now. You know what
Yeah,
I
let's get
mean?
into it. Let's do it.
yeah.
Unpack it now.
Yeah, I like to believe, or I have a saying, it's not a Prince Hall isn't necessarily a you know we didn't become a organization. Became an organization out of necessity, right? It was a deviation. It wasn't avoiding it, but knowing the story of Prince Hall, and that he was able to, he was freeborn. But it's to say, like, all right, what's y'all's opinion on how that has, I guess, reverberated through history, with
But
the
knowing
understanding, yeah, knowing that not all Masons, particularly met that criteria for Prince Hall.
Yeah, that's true, especially in the 1700s.
They weren't meant to.
Yeah,
That,
it
that was
wasn't meant for
exact. That
them.
was exactly the point. The point was it was a guardrail to keep certain people, a certain class of people, out of masonry. Which is why I mean, it's an interesting thing because we have a history. We have a tendency now to sort of like paint over history and what the intent was behind history, and then try to gloss out. Listen, now what we're saying is it's you got free will and whatever. That's not what its intent was. Is that you were a free person, right? And listen, I think better now, and I don't know that we have any. We probably do. But in mass, we don't have any slaves, at least not in the sense that they meant then. We have plenty of mental slaves, but we don't have any folks in bondage, generally speaking, now. So I don't think it's a
Yeah.
problem.
But even to that point and beyond that, the being a man portion, right? Because we're in a time now where You know, we're not going to offend anybody and what their
Like,
beliefs are, and but understand that the landmarks, ancient landmarks, should never be violated, but they are
right.
constantly violated, and it says specifically for women not to be part of the order, and that is also not a true statement in some jurisdictions.
Does that say that in the landmarks?
It did say that, yeah, it did say that.
Do
So
you know what landmark that is?
I was
Yeah.
referring to the actually the 13th of the. I'll go back and look at it. I was looking at it earlier, just trying to get a little bit more context. I've always looked at the landmarks, but I'll give it by the end of the show. I'll definitely come. We'll circle back to that. But as far as the be a man portion, you know, these are just the qualifications: be a man, freeborn, of all lawful age, and well recommended. And it
Hmm.
even goes on to say, especially in the 18th, unmutilated.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You know, are we really? I think my question is, are we really following this, we'll call it landmark, right? I was going to say edict, but we'll say the landmark. Are we following that to the T? Are we just doing it when it's convenient for us?
Right. Well, I mean, it gets tricky because you talk about mutilation.
Hmm.
Define it. Is that any man with a
It's,
cir-
it's,
with
it's very
a
gray.
circumcised penis?
Yeah, it's very gray because, you know, you're born with foreskin. And so then
Correct.
if you're circumcised, then you're mutilated, right?
You are
By
mutilated,
what Webster's definition of that mutilation would be.
which is
Uh,
most men in the Western world.
most, yeah. And so again, it's this is where the landmarks sometimes are really good, but a lot of times are really gray in certain areas.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it begs
let's
the
not.
question whether we need to create some space for them to be. Obviously, we have, right? The
Hmm.
freeborn status in and of itself is a change. But do
Hmm.
we need to address some of the landmarks that and create some clarity around the fact that some of these things are archaic, right?
Hmm.
Being
Yeah.
being a man, that clearly is just for our jurisdiction. In France, that's not true, and frankly,
Right.
in the UK, in London, not true.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
So
Just
I
go ahead.
okay, I have a question, and pardon the noise, everybody, because I'm coming back from my usual vocation, but I'll be locked in here soon. But I've always not questioned, but I've questioned, the landmarks from the perspective of, okay, you know, masonry came before, superseded the establishment of these landmarks, right?
Hmm.
So therefore, although they're immovable, right? Like how true is that, right? What gives it? That's what I question. That's what I think about, and I'm still on that journey and on that search.
I mean, Aaron can answer. I can tell you this: the unmovable pieces. These are the foundational rules and regulations, if you will. That being unmovable. So if we look at, you know, furniture in the laws that's movable and immovable, right? You can think about the landmarks in the same fashion because it's the same thing, right? So what are some of the furnishings in the laws that are immovable?
Come on, Doc. Let's have it.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
waiting. That
what
was a
what?
question. What are some of the furnishings in the laws that are immovable?
The
So
Book of Law.
you're breaking up, but I think
So the Holy
but
Bible,
I think I'm
right?
breaking
Oh,
up, but yep.
Okay. What else?
mhm. So you have the Book of Law,
The Book of Law, absolutely, right?
right? You have uh, the what is it? The Great Light, the Book of Light. Say, I'm messing up now.
Nah,
Tell us what they are.
it's a book. It's the square of the compass,
The Square and the Compass.
the Book of Law.
Hmm.
The author is never going to move, right? We'll say that that's immovable just by happenstance of its foundation,
That's right, but that's not one of the three.
and then the the pillars at the
That's right.
alternate stations, okay, and those are the working tools, and we consider those immovable, right? For the sake of and as we think about that, and I just want to give a basic context as we think about that, these landmarks were written as general guidelines on how Masons shall conduct themselves, like
Correct.
the eighth landmark, right? The Grand Master's prerogative to make a Mason on site, and that's coming up here later in the discussion. So I'll dive off of that for
Hmm.
now. Um, but as far as the 18th landmark, into your question of Milton, is that's why these are foundational pieces. That's why they would be considered immovable.
Yeah, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
That what makes it, what now makes it unmovable, right, or
Mm-hmm.
immovable.
Right.
Um, but I still, and I have my notes, and but I don't have them in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I just still, I'm still like where by authority were these written, and because that lends to all the questions of things that are happening today in masonry that are changing, right? We talk about masonry being progressive, but it's not very progressive in the ways and means that we are governed, right, via the Constitution, not really the Constitution, but by the landmarks specifically. And I think that that's where a lot of discontent comes from the sense of like, well, can we technically do this, or who has the authority to say that? And it's also a beautiful thing because to a degree, we're almost self-governing, right? So we can't lose sight of that as well. So there are things that can be changed, but it takes a lot of effort to get a movement going, right? And I think that's done intentionally. And I know we're going to get into the actual chapters, but one of the things that kind of baffled me, or not baffled me, but just really sparked my curiosity, is the portion of unwritten rules. There's unwritten rules in the organization. It speaks to it in our Constitution. So it's so ambiguous in that it's an unwritten rule. It literally says unwritten rule.
I have,
So there's a what's that?
I have an answer for you.
It was meant to capture the spirit of masonry, but I think there's like that's an open loop that not a lot of people, I don't think, really like look at or really give it a credence to say, hey, what does this really mean? And then is this an obstacle? Because it's like a catch-all, right? It's like, or in the military we call it Article 92. It's the
Article, yeah,
catch-all article.
Article 134.
Yeah, yeah, 134 general. Yeah, there it is. 134 general. We gonna wrap it up here. So I think that article specifically, as it relates to the Constitution, uh, doesn't provide clarity on some things. And further, I think that unless I find it otherwise, I don't know what gives the landmarks its authority besides that, hey, this is just the way it is. Like, this is what we've decided to adopt, if that makes sense.
Doc, can I lean into that?
Please, yeah,
All
please.
right. So two things. The Constitution speaks of there are two things that may give some confusion. On one part of the Constitution speaks of the unwritten laws. That is specific to the landmarks. The landmarks are considered the unwritten laws of Masonry. Then there is this other concept. I want to say it correctly, and Doc, help me out on this. This is time honored tradition, right? It also speaks about things like that. So when we have things that are um, things that we have done over the course of time a certain way
Mm-hmm.
consistently, those things will be honored as a part of our, I'm going to say, constitutional light tradition, right? This is the way we've always done it, and they can be addressed, but that is sort of like the time honored tradition. But in terms of unwritten law specifically, it points directly at these 25 landmarks,
All right.
right? And then in terms of authority, it's a good question, Trey, because I actually don't know the origins of them, and I will know when we finish this. Before the sun rises in the morning, I'm going to have an answer for it. But what is meant to be true about the 25 landmarks is that they are shared across all jurisdictions of masonry, supposedly. So this is how we as Masons should be able to recognize each other no matter where we are. It's one of the ways, right? Because we have these, no matter what else you do in your constitution and in your jurisdiction, these landmarks are supposed to be immutable for this reason, because they should be the same throughout time anywhere in the world. This is true. To the other question as to whether or not we could, why they're immutable, if they can be changed, there may be instances where in they could be changed, but in order for them to serve their proper purpose, you would have to have an agreement really for them to be functional with every jurisdiction in the world, such that they did stay this. Everybody has to agree.
Yeah,
Right.
so I guess to your point, the first landmark, the modes of recognition, that unilaterally
Mhm.
covers all of the landmarks across all jurisdictions.
That's
Really,
right.
the first landmark. And then
Right.
as we go further to Trace point, articles of incorporation, because it's not do as I say or not as I do or unwritten, there is some of that. But the articles of incorporation gives us the authority to as a governing body, as a governing grand lodge. So those articles of incorporation give us that. And then if we just peer back a little bit more, if you look at the Grandmaster's prerogatives, right? The Grandmaster's prerogatives gives him the autonomy and authority to govern his jurisdiction as he sees fit and to draft the Constitution, which we have and which we're referring to. So the Constitution will cover the laws that are appropriate to that jurisdiction. And
Right.
then
I'm
there's
gonna
some,
I'm gonna I'm
yeah,
gonna
go
I'm
ahead.
gonna drag back onto the dot if that's okay. Can I
Please,
do
yeah,
that?
so we don't get too much off topic. But
So
that just
so
wanted to throw that in
so
there.
inside of this first piece here, you mentioned this, Doc. This is the 18th landmark,
Right.
qualifications for initiation. And
Mm-hmm.
it reads, the qualifications for initiation into Freemasonry are essential to maintaining the integrity of the institution. These
Mm-hmm.
include being a man, unmutilated,
Correct.
freeborn, and of mature age. Historically, this means that women whose those born into slavery and those who are physically mutilated in the sense of disfigurement cannot be initiated into the rites of Freemasonry. These qualifications are rooted not in
Appropriate.
social customs, but in the symbolic teachings of the craft.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's an esoteric reflection that is attached to this piece. I actually just did, this is a lecture I just recently did. The qualifications are deeply symbolic and reflect the spiritual readiness of an individual. Being freeborn reflects the need for a free spirit, one unburdened by the constraints of the material world. The concept of being unmutilated symbolizes a wholeness of the soul, while mature age signifies the necessary wisdom and discernment for receiving the teachings of the craft. These principles are symbolic of the spiritual readiness required to undergo transformation that Masonic initiations bring. They highlight the need for purity, maturity, and spiritual integrity. So, an interesting point here is we had first the reading of the landmark as it is, and then you had a modern interpretation,
Right.
right? So in that the landmark is unchanged. How we understand the landmark is not to say that you are not uncircumcised, right? It now doesn't speak to slavery other than maybe slavery of your heart and your spiritual bond,
Mm-hmm.
right? It goes to say that what they're talking about in terms of maturity, because it doesn't say an age. It doesn't say an age at all, right? We have an age in our Constitution, but essentially, it is to say that you are capable of handling this work, that you're spiritually able and mentally able to manage it. I'm gonna
Right.
move on because we have a little to cover.
Okay.
All right. So part two, types of lodges under the most under our jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
Our jurisdiction encompasses several types of lodges, each serving a unique function. The first of those, and the one that most people are aware of, are the subordinate lodges or the Blue Lodge. Right? These are the cornerstones of our masonry. Local lodges are where brothers gather, perform rituals, engage in fellowship, and serve the community. Each subordinate lodge is chartered by the Grand Lodge, granting it legal authority to operate, confer degrees, and uphold the tenets of Freemasonry. This is an interesting point. Subordinate lodges are subordinate to the Grand Lodge. They are not in control of masonry in the jurisdiction. They follow the masonry as it is given down from the Grand Lodge, agreed upon what is supposed to be by the body itself, right? The next type of lodge that we have in our jurisdiction is the Research Lodge. These specialized lodges are dedicated to Masonic education, historical study, and research. They typically do not confer degrees, but are an invaluable. They are invaluable in preserving and sharing Masonic knowledge. Like so, this is a. We have something called the Phylaxis Society, which is an sort of educational group that you can become a part of. But most jurisdictions do have a research lodge that you can become a member of, and there will be a great amount, should be a great amount of history and research that you can sift through to increase your knowledge and then hopefully share that knowledge with your lodge and other brothers. The third type of lodge is your occasional lodge. So this is the temporary lodge that's convened for specific ceremonies. The one we know probably the best is Grand Session, our annual conclave, right? But that is not the only ones. This is like cornerstone layings. This is another reason. An occasional lodge can be open for a funeral or a dedication of something or other, right? These lodges have temporary authority only, and it is granted directly by the Grand Master, right? So important to know those. These are things that are again defined by our Constitution. Now here's a big one. Part 3 of this session is about jurisdiction. Like, what is jurisdiction? What does it mean, and why is jurisdiction important? And understanding what it is, right? So jurisdiction, simply put, is the geographical or authoritative area over which a Grand Lodge holds governance and legal authority. The jurisdiction covers all lodges within the state or jurisdiction. This authority ensures ritual uniformity, consistency in Masonic law, effective governance, and the protection of the craft from illegitimate and unauthorized operations. Why is it critical? It defines who can legitimately confer degrees. It ensures ritual and procedural uniformity, as said. It protects the craft from fraudulent and clandestine lodges. It enables the Grand Lodge to mediate and resolve disputes and provide fair governance and judicial oversight. Without this clearly defined jurisdiction, our craft's unity, integrity, effectiveness would really just fall apart, right? So this is really interesting to say that jurisdiction it could be jurisdiction in the state, but you could have a Grand Lodge that has jurisdiction over multiple states,
So
right?
then the question for the viewers, just for understanding, is what constitutes how many subordinate lodges, if we go back to part 2, constitute a Grand Lodge in the course of the Constitution?
Should be
How
three,
many?
correct?
It's 3,
It's 3.
right?
It's 3.
So again, if and then we segue that into part 3 with the clandestine lodges, because there are a lot of clandestine lodges, and then there is some ambiguity about what clandestine lodge is. So I think we should unpack that just a bit. Not it doesn't
Sure.
have to be. So a clandestine lodge is a Grand Lodge that is not recognized by the Grand Lodge of England, not a Grand
Grand
Lodge of
Lodge and
England,
or subordinate lodge.
our
Right.
subordinate lodge. And then if your Grand Lodge does not recognize said Grand Lodge, then they are clandestine to your
Now,
Grand Lodge.
to your clandestine to your Grand Lodge,
Yeah,
because if it is a lodge that is recognized by, let's say, the Scottish
of course.
Grand Lodge,
That's why I
they are not
emphasize
clandestine to each other.
to your Grand Lodge. That's why I stress
Correct.
that. Yeah.
And also, if your Grand Lodge recognizes the other Grand Lodge, then those
Hmm.
lodges are then again not clandestine,
Right.
right? And now that leads us into so jurisdiction also can speak a little into recognition,
Hmm.
right? Recognition and clandestine are not the same thing.
No.
You can
No.
have, and in this country, unfortunately, lodges that are recognized and chartered under the same Grand Lodge, the same, for
Yeah.
instance, for us, it's the Grand Lodge of England,
Right.
that do not recognize each other, right? There are lodges in parts of this country that do not recognize Prince Hall lodges. And I think it was October, it was not that long ago that the Grand Lodge of England sent some very high-ranking folks out here to discuss
October. Yeah, we saw
this
them. It
issue.
was the program manager from the United
Mhm.
Grand Lodge of England, who has never, by the way, for the sake of the audience, has never been to the United States, never been to a Prince Hall Lodge, and that was the first time. And
Came to a Prince Hall
yeah,
Lodge.
they actually before they went to the Grand Lodge of California, they actually went to a said lodge. I won't say what lodge it was, but they did go to a lodge, uh, and Prince Hall Lodge opened up for them. It was the first
Mhm.
lodge in this jurisdiction that historically opened up for them, and that had never happened before.
Right, and that's a big deal. And
Mhm.
they're one of the reasons for doing that is they wanted to make this point to lodges in this country and around the world that
Mhm.
Prince Hall masonry is legitimate masonry, as legitimate as any other masonry anywhere on the planet.
Right.
And if you don't recognize a Prince Hall Lodge, they
Mhm.
won't recognize you. That was the statement that they were trying to make there, right? But again, that is also an issue of jurisdiction, right? This falls under this conversation.
Yeah, that's true. So jurisdiction, we just talk about being geographical too. That's the most one of the biggest things is geographical location.
Right, right. So, so geography in our case, it's out here where we are. It's the state is our
Right.
jurisdiction, right? But as I
Right.
said, there are some Grand Lodges that have jurisdiction over more than one state, right? But that will
Hmm.
be inside of their agreements.
Correct.
So,
The other
so
thing
what?
about, yep,
So within jurisdiction, I think it's pretty neat. And if I get this wrong, please correct me. So is it the Grand Lodge of Oklahoma that has jurisdiction over Hawaii and all other military traveling lodges? Is that correct?
Not over Hawaii, and
Okay.
and that is not a true statement because my original jurisdiction was District 21 out of Oklahoma, but it was in Yokosuka, Japan. But
Hmm.
overseas, you have Washington State jurisdiction and Oklahoma jurisdiction and other jurisdictions that cover overseas. So I think that's just maybe a misnomer
Yeah.
that only Oklahoma covers overseas. That's not true. It's not a true
Mm,
statement.
got you.
mhm, okay. So the other thing, ritual uniformity, big deal.
Mhm.
There's gonna be a lot to talk about that this year, I think.
It will, and before we get there, I just want to make this point because it literally just popped on my head based on what Trey was saying. For the sake of the audience and for the sake of you brothers, did you know that military bases are sovereign territory?
No.
They're considered sovereign territory. So in other words, jurisdictional that it does not apply on military bases, and it has not applied, especially overseas. Now that may be different in the United States, but overseas, I can tell you, having been raised in a lodge that was established on a military base solely because it was sovereign territory,
Sovereign to who?
sovereign to whatever Grand Lodge is in the area. For example, the Grand Lodge of Japan,
Hmm.
and they did not recognize Oklahoma. They did not. Now it ultimately didn't matter because the base again being sovereign territory, non-jurisdictional, the jurisdiction of Japan Grand Lodge could not govern what went on base,
Got it.
it being a military installation. So that's what the uniqueness of when we talk about this stuff, we have to talk about the uniqueness of what that looks like on the if we talk geography, we gotta say what it looks like from a geographical standpoint because it
So the
does
base,
get different. It gets weird on base.
that base in Japan, however, must owe its allegiance to a Grand Lodge. Which one is it?
Two actually. Oklahoma went away, but it was Oklahoma and Washington State, and the Grand
Mm,
Lodge of Japan. All three lodges. Matter of fact, all three Grand Lodges, subordinate lodges, shared the same building,
mm,
Interesting.
and
But
so
yeah.
it was
those
very
base
interesting.
lodges
Yeah,
were ultimately jurisdictionally controlled by
by Oklahoma, Washington State, and Japan.
Mm,
I'm sorry,
and Japan.
Oklahoma, Washington State, and the Grand Lodge of the Philippines. Excuse
mm.
me.
Got it. Good.
Yeah.
Understood.
So hold on,
Who
wait a minute.
controls?
Sorry. Yeah.
Who
Uh,
initiates-
What's that,
No,
Trey?
Aaron, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah, go. No, go ahead, Aaron. You were asking the same thing I
Who
was.
would mediate a challenge if there was a challenge? Would it be the Grand Lodge of the Philippines, or Oklahoma, or Washington State?
Either one, but none of them would, based on that specific military base being sovereign territory. Now, there was the only one that brought up a stink about that in June of 2006 when New Beginnings was established was the Grand Lodge of Japan, and it was a mute point quickly. It was a very mute point because once you walk out of the gate, Japan controls Japan. But once you walk back into the gate on Sife, then that is sovereign to the military and then to the subordinate jurisdictions, i.e., Oklahoma and Washington State and Grand Lodge of Philippines, with their subordinate lodge that's on base. So it like I said, it
So
gets
depending
weird
on
on
what the
base.
supporting lodge was and who it
Right.
owed allegiance to,
Correct.
that was the jurisdiction under which they fell, and that would be the Grand Lodge that would intercede in the case of some challenge.
Correct.
Got it. All right,
And
makes
so
sense.
yeah, any occurrences would go to your grand law. So being District 21, I would, and especially as a worship master, I would have to reach out to our district deputy and then to the, for better lack of terms, chain of command at the
Hmm.
Grand Lodge of Oklahoma.
Hmm.
And then, oh, by
Makes
the
sense.
way, you're 16 hours ahead of them.
Right.
So
Right.
there's that communication piece. Up at 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to talk to this, call stateside to get an answer to something for, dust up here, skirmish there. We didn't have any issues with the Grand Lodge of the Philippines in Yokosuka 20, as a matter of fact, but we had issues with the Grand Lodge of Japan, just always trying to come through the gate, for better lack of terms, metaphorically come through the gate and govern what was going on base. But because it was sovereign, past Grand
Can't
Master,
do it.
rest in peace, yeah, Dr. Dave Vaughn said, nope, sovereign territory
Yeah.
and no jurisdiction.
So that's interesting. So we have, I want to say it's the Iranian Lodge in exile here
Hmm.
in California.
Okay.
What jurisdiction, I wonder, do they fall under?
I have no idea.
That would be interesting because if
It
they're
will be,
here
yeah.
and they have, I know where they meet at the Santa Monica Palisades Lodge uh, in Santa Monica.
Right.
So I'm curious to know if there was an issue in that lodge, what the governance would look like.
It depends on who they owe their allegiance to.
Mhm.
You know what I mean, and that's where it gets weird because you don't know who they owe their allegiance to, who they're chartered by,
Right.
because that's at the end of the day, is who chartered you, what Grand Lodge chartered you, because obviously you had to be chartered by whatever Grand Lodge. That is who you owe your allegiance to. That is where all your governance is deriving from, to include what we're talking about today as a constitution.
Right. Let's talk about ritual uniformity.
Okay, let's get into it.
That's your thing. So one of the things that the different jurisdictions do things differently ritually.
Hmm. And that's due
I
to
went.
the difference in the rituals.
Hmm?
That's due to the difference in the rituals.
A lot of times. So I went to go visit state lodge, a state lodge that's not far from me.
Mm.
Really fantastic guys, and they invited me to come to their lodge. I unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but they had a lodge visiting from Mexico City,
Yeah.
and they were excited about it because they'd seen this lodge do rituals before that they were doing degree work,
In Spanish too,
and
huh?
not just in Spanish,
In English. Yeah.
in
Oh wow.
costume,
Okay.
and they have these special ritualistic costumes
I'll
that are
speak to
very
that. Yeah.
different from what we do, and their ritual. So to that, you know what I've heard a lot from state masons
So,
is how much they love our ritual being Prince Hall because we do things very differently than most of them do. We are a little more elaborate. We're a little more specific, right? Um, there seems to be a little bit more. I won't say substance, but content to many of our ritual work in our degrees, right? And they
Right.
seem to really enjoy that. But again, that's a difference in the jurisdictions, right? The state jurisdiction versus the Prince Hall jurisdiction are separate jurisdictions within the same state, right?
Yeah.
We just have, I mean, we have quite a few differences, but one of them is our ritual. But one of the things that is at least jurisdiction is meant to allow for and to control is that things within its jurisdiction are done the same way.
That standardization within the jurisdiction, absolutely. But what happens? We talked about subordinate lodges earlier. What do subordinate lodges do? They tend to take on their own identity, and
Yep.
they tend to elevate themselves above said grand lodge.
Correct.
When again, subordinate means to follow someone else. So they're subordinate for a reason, meaning that the grand lodge has already established a ritual.
Correct.
And so I can tell you, being in this position now, there are only, I'm going to say this again, two deviations in the ritual that you have the autonomy to do.
What are they?
That is the prayer. You have an optional prayer. The old rituals, page 17 and 28. That is the opening and the closing prayer. It says in the italicized words that that is the only option.
That's right.
Everything else has to be followed to the letter. Now,
Verbatim.
verbatim. Now, painstakingly enough, when you go to different lodges, so your deacons are doing work different, worship masters are doing work different, same ritual.
In my jurisdiction, I am honored to have um, an association with and a friendship with a guy who is tasked with normalizing that.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about roles and responsibilities maybe on the next segment of this show,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the Constitution clearly calls this out that this is the role and responsibility
Mm-hmm.
of this particular person inside this order to make sure that things are normalized ritualistically
Right. Right.
across our jurisdiction. How do you enter a lodge? How do you exit a lodge? What are the things you do? What are the signs? What are all of the things Masonic that we can and must do, not should do, must do
Mm-hmm.
while we are going through the process of being in that lodge and going through the ritual and going through degrees, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you should be able to recognize any lodge in our jurisdiction by just going in and seeing all these things are done the same.
Absolutely. So coming to an official visit near you will be
Yeah.
a demonstration of the opening and closing and explanation of all the parts within the opening and closing by some bald guy.
Some ball dude.
Some bald guy with glasses is going to talk about that
Man,
with a bunch of
I,
district
I have a I
deputies.
have a first degree tomorrow, so that
Man,
bald guy is welcome to come down and lend a hand.
that's
I got
crazy.
short staff.
Yeah, yeah, it's been discussed. You know, our leadership is definitely that is their goal. I
Yep.
can say
I know
that
that
honestly. I was on the call with them last week or earlier this week, and that was their goal. And it was really inspiring to hear and to have that dialogue and to um, try to push forward a plan that's finally being accepted. Was some modifications were made to not ruffle feathers, so to speak, but just to for the intent of the educational piece of it. So happy to say that's kind of moving in the right direction finally. And so the other standardization stuff will come. And like I said, coming to an official visit near you will definitely be breaking down opening and closing and the floor work. Because the biggest issue right now in the lodges is the senior deacons. Senior deacons are
right.
doing things differently. And that's painful. Right? That's painful for the district deputy to have to try to correct every meeting, the worship master to try to have to correct every meeting. Um, it's just difficult. And it's again, the only two exceptions in our ritual are the opening and closing prayer, which is optional. And even toward the end, we can talk about the chaplain and why he has an option. But we'll get into that later. That's a small
Let's
piece.
while we're on this a little bit,
Hmm.
I have a question that has come up in my lodge quite a bit.
Okay.
We talked about the furniture of the lodge. There's the altar, and
Okay.
they're the three minor lights,
Yeah.
right? Where are they supposed to be?
As far as what location,
Where are the lights supposed to be?
that's not a standard 1, 2, 3 question. Every
So
lodge,
in,
every
in
lodge is
our
different.
ritual, in our ritual, there's a map,
Well, there's a diagram.
it's a diagram.
Hmm.
And so the question is that diagram law or is it suggestion?
It's law,
Right.
and
So if
and
it's law, there is a place for those lights to be.
as far as southeast, well, so it's the sun, the moon, and the worship master is what they're emblematical of. So just knowing that the sun, the moon, and the worship master, think about those things
The
and how they
north is
fell
always
out.
supposed to be dark, right?
The north is always supposed to be dark.
So should it be on the inside front corner, the back side corner out of the
Hmm.
north,
But we,
or should it be
when
on
when
the
you
corner?
ask that, understand how lodges are set up,
Hmm.
and it is different. It is
It's different.
different, and so the diagram is designed to give you whatever your true north is, your true west is, your true east is in your lodge is how it should be set up where the north is dark. Having said that,
So
the north is still partially lit because of the east based on geography.
that's exactly right. Now also consider that some lodges have that little cluster of lights, right? So they're actually all on one side of the altar, but they're in a cluster of
Yeah,
three.
longer conversation and longer fix. But again, furnishings, ability to get the proper furnishings, that's another discussion. Because some
Yeah.
lodges have 7 people, 8 people on rolls, 12 people, and
You
so
know what I have seen?
what's
One of the
that?
things that I've seen that I thought was really interesting. In the UK, some of the lodges have those lights set up at the stations.
Yeah, I could see that. But Prince Hall jurisdictions, I've always seen them on the altar.
Do you know why they exist?
Why they exist in the UK? No, I've
No,
never.
why they exist at all.
Why the lights exist?
Mhm.
There's some ambiguous reasons, but let me
So
hear your reason, and I'll kind of chime in just with some historical
s-
stuff.
historical stories has been given to me. A lot of these lodges started off in taverns, and they were dark. They were dark taverns, and you needed light to be able to read the work. And so at each one of these stations, there was a taper, or a taper is just a candle. That's all it is,
Hmm.
right? So three burning tapers, right? So you had these tapers that were at each station,
Hmm.
and it's as simple as that, not more complicated.
Well,
And
think
they
of
became a
so
part of the furniture of the lodge.
that may have been post 14th century because 14th
Yeah,
century the guild masons started in a dirt lot where they drew a
that's right.
circle.
That's right.
And so you know what I mean. It was
That's
it
right.
was either at high noon where it was fully lit or it wasn't, right? Low
Right.
high hills and low dales, and then high noon and low 12. And so we got to talk. Be careful when we talk about the eras, because the 14th century with the Guildmasons, like I said, that was just a circle, and they
It's
always
true.
open on the entered apprentice degree or the fellowcraft degree. Most likely, all the
Yeah,
business was
because there was
conducted
no master mason's degree.
exactly, which is a made up degree.
There
And,
was no master mason's degree.
so that makes sense, common sense wise, why late lodges after the 14th century would do that, just because of the light, the need for light to read whatever, especially like Anderson's Constitution or whatever, right? The Regius poem and stuff like that, the charges. So that makes sense.
Look at you
But
talking about stuff that's going to get us in trouble.
no, I'm just that's surface on that. Surface. Trey, you back because you've been quiet, which is unusual.
Yeah, I had some connectivity issues, but I'm back at it.
Okay.
I'm taking it all in at the moment.
Okay.
Enjoying the conversation for sure.
Okay. Just checking.
I'm going to move us along.
Okay. Gotcha.
This next one is great. I love this part of our Constitution and how it structures this for us. Part four of this segment is rights and privileges of membership.
Mm-mm.
As a master mason within the jurisdiction, you are entitled to specific rights and privileges. Our Constitution protects these explicitly, including the right to attend lodge meetings and participate actively,
Mm.
the right to vote and hold office, contingent upon proficiency and good standing. Oh, so much meat here. The right to seek redress or appeal decisions made by your lodge or Grand Lodge. Eligibility to receive Masonic charity and support in times of genuine distress. These rights and privileges are not just formalities. They are fundamental expression of Masonic values, equality, fraternity, and mutual support. So let's start at the top. The right to attend lodge meetings and participate actively. Does it say your lodge meeting?
No.
No.
It says
It says
meeting.
lodge meetings.
Right.
Anywhere in the jurisdiction.
Anywhere in the jurisdiction. However, there's still protocol too.
There is protocol. Let's hear it. What is it?
So the protocol is obviously just in this informal within the jurisdiction. Contact the worship master and give him a courtesy, right? That is when we get back to those unwritten things. That's some of the unwritten stuff. If you go outside the jurisdiction,
What if you're down in the South? You're from the
Mhm.
North, you're down in the South. You really just want to go to a meeting. You're properly dressed.
right of visitation. I mean, again, it's still
But it's right now. It's spur of the moment. You walk by and you see this
it's
lodge.
spur of the moment, and you go in. Now, let's say they're enacting a business meeting. They
Mhm.
have the right not to let you in because
That's right.
they're doing business.
Why?
What do you mean why? Because that's their finances. That's their business of their specific client. It's like
Doesn't say-
invite
doesn't
somebody
say-
to your kitchen table when you're, doing your
understand.
bills.
I understand. Just this is point of clarification.
Okay.
The
Gotcha.
Constitution doesn't say you can visit a lodge during anything other than a stated meeting.
It does not. It does not. Again, it's the right of the worship master. That's why I said a courtesy call to the worship master. If it's spur of the moment, contact whoever you can contact and say, hey, want to know where you're at. Can I visit? I'm here in the area. Yes,
Can you just
spur of the
walk up?
moment.
Can you walk up?
You could walk up, but will the Tyler let you in? Don't know.
Right. Should he
Don't
have
know.
to?
He shouldn't have to, but again, that's the autonomy of that lodge.
Should he have to make aware the worshipful master that there is someone alarming the door,
Absolutely.
properly dressed?
Absolutely. And then the worship master will
And-
decide if he's going to let him in.
Correct.
Right? Especially if we're talking spur of the moment, no communication, the
Right.
worship master will have to decide at that point will he
Right.
let him in.
Right. Now here's the challenge. We had this happen. It was either this year or late last year.
Mm-hmm.
We had a guy come to the lodge. He actually, interestingly, he came to Blue Lodges, and he also went to consistory meetings. And it got really interesting because there was no recognition in the Blue Lodge level.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think we
So,
talked about this.
You
yeah,
remember
yeah.
this? You remember
Yeah.
this?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was turned away.
That was bad.
I think somebody let him in at one point in time, but ultimately he was told that he could not go to Blue Lodge meetings because he was not in possession of the proper credentials.
Right.
Right. On the other hand, he was allowed to go to consistory meetings because the consistories recognized each other.
Yeah, but then we got
Hold
into the
on.
recognition piece,
Hold
and that was
I gotta
kind of
unpack.
sticky.
Yeah, I got to unpack that a little bit.
Isn't that something?
Hey, I think I'm picking up, but I just want to, just for my edification, really. So, are we saying like, he was in another house, an appendant body that was recognized
Mhm.
cross jurisdiction,
Uh-huh.
but
Mhm.
that just so happened to be at the same location
Now be
of a
careful,
Blue
Trey.
Lodge.
Be
Yeah,
careful.
yeah.
Be careful when you
Let's
say
get-
appendant body, because when you're
Okay,
talking about United Spring Council, it's they're their own governing
Own
body.
governing
Yeah.
body,
So-
which is
Yeah.
how we got into this.
Yeah.
So he was from
Mm.
another country.
Got you.
Not from,
Okay,
He was not from the United States.
got you.
And so the jurisdiction from which he came had no recognition with our jurisdiction, thus for our Blue Lodges. Thus, he was not allowed to come into Blue Lodge meetings.
Got you. Man.
However, the higher degrees, no problem. He
Yeah.
could come in, he could sit down, he could enjoy the meeting.
So that's the thing. So I mean, that's a lot to unpack when answering the door from the Tyler, right? Like, I don't know this guy. To your point about can I just show up to a lodge? Absolutely not. I mean, there's protocol and those unwritten rules, and I think that's a reason why, so you can protect the Blue Lodge from those who are not authorized.
to your point there.
But in our
Listen,
jurisdiction, there's a vetting process. So if
Yeah.
a brother
Right.
comes to the door that has been vouched for, we get 3 past masters to go out and vet him, right? And if that vet, they'll come back and make the report to the worship master, and the worship
Oh.
master will decide at that point. Because remember, we're back to what Aaron was saying. If a spur of the moment a guy pops up, right? You send the 3 past masters out to vet him per the Constitution. They go out to vet him. They ask them the questions, you know what I mean, and they can go through the challenge questions, a litany of other things, and they come back and make a report to the worship master. The worship master then will say at that point if it is feasible, and if he needs to go to recess to make a call to either the district deputy or the deputy grand master because he is uncertain, he certainly has the autonomy to do that. So there's just levels and common sense to it too.
For good reason. It does raise some question though.
Mhm.
This falls back to jurisdiction a little bit, right? So if you go to another country and you're a master mason, you have master mason's rights as per beyond the Constitution, the 25 landmarks, to the right of visitation. And you go to a lodge and you're in possession of all of the proper passes and you're properly dressed, and they tell you can't come in because
Well,
there's no recognition.
Just kind of vibing off the chat because I have the chat open too. One of the brothers, brother Anthony, was talking about unwritten rule example
Mhm.
given. It's a common courtesy, and
It
again,
is.
it's like someone coming into your house.
Yep,
They're not just gonna come into your house unannounced. Your
that's they
lodge
should.
is your house, and it's the
They
same
should.
concept, right? And
Look,
that's where common courtesy comes in.
I have a production facility,
Mm,
my company up north, up in the north in wine country.
Mhm.
And ironically, this is probably one of the most racist parts of this state that I've ever been in.
Mhm.
And I it happened to have all my stuff with me, and I was really curious. I kind of wanted to go and knock on the door. Right now, mind you, because they're in our state, we actually have. I could go to the lodge. They could tell me no, right? But I have the ability to go into their lodge,
Of course.
right? But if it was in Albania, not necessarily. And the same is true for us. The reason for us is we talk about clandestine lodges. There are lodges that are, listen, Johnny Mack could decide that he wants to be a Mason and file a business license that
Mhm.
sets himself up as a Masonic fraternity, and he's lodge number 20,082. Johnny Mack Lodge,
Mhm.
and the ritual is everywhere to be had. He can get it anywhere, right? He can get a form of a constitution. He can set his lodge up. He can
Mhm.
learn all the stuff. He can learn all the things, but he's not an actual Mason. Never gone through the degrees, none of it, right? And he could show up to the lodge and present himself. We have to be able to say no to that. We have to be able to look secretary to secretary, whatever that process is. We have a few different tools. I don't have mine on me.
We have a dues
we got
card.
we got dues cards. We got amity.
We've got amity. Like we have a lot of things that we can use to make this process easy, but it still doesn't remove some of my discomfort. I'd love to be able to just go anywhere in the world and follow that landmark.
Yeah, and again, it's just common courtesy. We go back to what Brother Henderson was talking about. Just common courtesy, and
Yep.
and 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 that's all it is, right? A simple phone call, text message, because if you go into Westgate, Westgate is public too as far as lodge locator,
Yep.
right? But then again, that's kind of ambiguous because unless you have access to Westgate, the lodge locator, and I don't remember on our website if you can go do a lodge locator, but this it's public
Uh,
information.
you
It's easy
can.
enough to get. Yeah,
It's working now.
yeah, it's easy enough to get. Right. So having said that, there's some points of contact in email. Uh, Most of the time in email, but sometimes, more times than not, there's a phone number.
To the secretary
Yeah, and
almost
so
every time.
again, those common courtesies to just hey, I'm in your area. This is why we have CCFCs, especially for brothers coming from different jurisdictions and especially overseas, right? CCFC should be in communication with each other to say, hey, this brother's going to be in your area. We've done all the vetting, and they're wanting to visit this appended body or this lodge or whatever. But again, we get independent bodies, it gets kind of sticky, especially with United Spring Council. They're their own thing. the shrine is their own thing, right?
Right.
And then everybody
So-
else pales into comparison.
All right, so I'm going to move on to the next topic, and I'm personally going to be very ginger about this topic. This topic
Okay.
is about the right to vote and hold office in the jurisdiction contingent upon proficiency and good standing.
I'm not touching that.
I will touch it a little bit, but I'm going to walk around the
Hey.
elephant.
Hey, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I can. So this issue is about the right to vote and hold office.
Got you.
in the
Okay.
Contingent upon proficiency and good standing. So there's a couple landmines here. Who can vote in your lodge?
Voting at the Grand Lodge.
Nope. Who can vote in your subordinate lodge?
Your
All,
subordinate
all,
lodge?
all members.
Yeah, every member paying dues.
All members can vote in your right. Who can hold office in your subordinate lodge?
Those who have showed
Contingent.
they have shown master
Say it.
proficiency in the Master Mason degree.
We're gonna put a pin in that.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, because
Who can
that's
vote?
kind of sticky. That's kind of sticky.
Who
and
can
there's other
vote
stuff.
in the Grand Lodge?
Only past masters,
No.
or
that is
or
not true.
those elected.
That is not
All
true.
voting
That's-
members who
All
are
that's
past
elected officers.
masters,
Yeah.
worshipful masters, and wardens.
Yep.
Say that one more time.
Past masters, worshipful masters, and wardens are
Yeah.
voting members of the Grand Lodge.
Yeah.
Who can? This is where we're gonna look, guys. We're gonna say it, and then I'm probably gonna run from it. Who can hold office in the Grand Lodge?
Now we're touching on those unwritten rules, right? That's what we're talking about.
I'm going to give you according to the Constitution, and I'm also going to give
Okay.
you. I'm going to give you
Okay.
both. Right? According to the Constitution, who can hold office in the Grand Lodge is any of the voting members. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
According to time-honored tradition, what most people believe to be true, and we're gonna honor this. We can have a long conversation about it at a different time. But what most people assume to be true is that you must be a past master to hold office in the Grand Lodge. The parliamentarian disagrees with that. But what I think is interesting about this, and we're going to get to this in another part of this constitutional conversation.
Mm.
The Constitution is a very strong piece of work. It is a valuable body because it instructs us and informs us as to what we can do and how we can do things.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something that exists or is assumed to exist that we like or don't like, we have mechanisms in place to do something about it. We can write a resolution to alter the Constitution to the will of the body. And I strongly suggest to our body and bodies across all jurisdictions, assuming that this is true in every jurisdiction, to be active in your process. And if there's something, again, that you like or don't like, something that you assume to be true, first read your Constitution and know that it's there or not there. And if it's not there and you want it there, put it there. If it's there, you don't want it there, work to get rid of it.
Yeah,
So-
but you
so
know
that-
why brothers don't do it though?
Because
That's important, right? You got to put a pin in that right there. Why, especially younger brothers that are just coming into ministry that have the right and are voting members, but aren't really versed on what they can and cannot do, especially at the grand level. It's an intimidation.
That's why you have a program. Your program, the Master Masons program, I think is so very important. I think that our process for bringing brothers in, the entered apprentice process, should be more substantial and longer generally. The same for the fellowcraft, same for getting to the point that you're going to take your Master Masons degree. But then when you're done with that, you don't yet know what it means to be a Mason. You don't really know all the things that are important for you to be functional as a Master Mason in the jurisdiction. Right. And one of the things that should be a requirement, look, you should have to know the bylaws of your lodge. You should have to know that.
That's true. That's true.
You should have to read not just the parts that are relevant to opening and closing the lodge. You should have to read your ritual. You should really get into understanding, not just reading it, but understanding what's inside of it, because there's a ton of work in your ritual, and you must absolutely understand your constitution before you go off and join any other body. And I mean any other body. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the consistory, I'm talking about York, I'm talking about the shrine. Before you do anything, you should be able to pass the test on the Constitution. You should really
Yeah.
understand this body that you're in, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is a problem. And when if people would know this, it would empower them and the body to a much greater degree, and it would make us better and stronger, right?
I'm gonna agree, but I'm also gonna agree to disagree.
Yeah,
And,
tell me why.
here's why. I agree with it in theory. In
Yeah,
theory, it makes sense.
yeah,
But having like talking this past weekend, um, to our leadership, a good point was made. There's brothers that come into Masonry and all they want to do is be a Mason. They don't want to do anything else.
what does that mean?
That means that they come into the order. This is where they're going to be. Once they become a master mason, that is all they want to do. Having said that, they have no desire to read said reference, which is the Constitution. To understand what you're doing, that's where I agree. You should read the Constitution and gain an understanding. Now, a test would be an extreme. Would it separate the men from the boys?
Yes,
Yes, of course,
yes.
absolutely, right. But if we start to create the separatism within the lodges, then that's another layer. So we yes, I would agree, but then I would also
We
disagree
we
because
we
the guys don't want this.
we
People that just don't want this is all they want to do is be a
I,
master
when I when
mason.
I
That's
when
it.
I came into masonry, I was aware of the fact that some rituals were written in code.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of them still are today.
And I asked because I was prepared. I was ready to dive into this. Man, I wanted to understand it. I was going to get into it, learn it, all of it. And when I got it, I was like, "What's this?
Yeah,
what's,
written in English.
what's this?" Right?
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, how come it's not written in code?" You know what I was told?
What?
You want to take a guess?
I- Based on the brothers in your lives, I have no idea, and it could be something wild. It could be something
It
wild
wasn't.
off
It
in
wasn't.
left
It
field
wasn't somebody
somewhere.
in my lodge. It wasn't somebody
Oh,
in my lodge.
okay.
No, no, it wasn't
I
somebody in my lodge. It
digress.
was
Then
somebody else.
go ahead.
They said because we're not smart enough.
I would disagree.
yeah.
I did.
I would wholeheartedly disagree.
I'm aggressively disagree with it, but that's what I was told, and I'm a new brother coming into the order, right? And to hear that is like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, but check the
So
messenger.
what you're telling me is there are other brothers in other jurisdictions who are smart enough and are capable, but the reason we don't get it, we get the dumbed down version because we can't do it.
Check the messenger. Check the messenger because
Yeah.
that's a
Well,
slave mentality.
now I
Check
can do
Yeah.
that.
check
I
the
can do that
messenger.
now. I can do
Yeah,
that now. I had no way to do that when I first came in. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like, so you imagine as a new as a profane coming in
Mhm.
and getting met with that, man.
The problem with that is I'm just gonna assume, right? They say when you assume it makes an ass out of you, but I'm just gonna assume it was a past master.
It was.
It was. Now,
It was.
if I was to have a conversation as a past master with this past master, he could not tell me. I can almost guarantee from just the tone of that conversation and that statement, he could not even tell me what his emblems mean on his apron.
Correct.
Mm,
If he did, that statement would never have manifested itself.
Should not
mm,
have.
mm.
But this takes me back to the first part of this, right?
Mhm.
If your constitution is the scaffolding, if your constitution instructs you what it is to be a mason in your jurisdiction,
Right?
and all you want to do is be a mason, you don't want to run for office, fine, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. You want to hang out and you want to smoke cigars and have a good bourbon? Me too. I like that. I really enjoy that. I prefer a pipe, but yeah, I dig. However, in the same way that you may just want to be a mason,
Mhm.
but you have to learn your obligations.
You do at least one, at least a master mason right
Two,
now. Mm, yeah,
two.
I mean, your study
You
guide
can't,
has
you
to.
can't, you can't, you
Your
can't
study guide has
progress.
to, but another conversation for another time.
Okay,
Because
got it. But you
how
understand
often
what I'm
are we
saying? Like you
enforcing
can't do
that?
the
Right?
degrees without them. So you have to show proficiency at the very minimum.
You should.
You're supposed to. You're
You're
supposed to,
supposed to.
right?
So, so,
And you technically don't. So a lot of lodges are teaching that you don't have to do the master mason's proficiency unless you want to move through the chairs,
correct.
right?
So what are we saying? We're saying that that's not a requirement. Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're saying the Constitution says? And then I have another comment about the Constitution.
What's not a requirement?
To do your masturbation proficiency.
No, that is a requirement in the
Oh,
Constitution.
okay. Okay. Cool.
It absolutely is it absolutely is a constitutional requirement, but
Okay. I'm
a
tracking
lot of
that.
ordinance
Yep.
lodges are not doing that, right?
Yeah.
But again, okay, here we go again. If you're required to know your or do your obligations and be proficient in that, and we say that part of the proficiency of being a master mason is understanding the scaffolding that defines us as masons, which is our constitution, then you can sit there smoking your cigar, reading your constitution, but you have to read it.
Well, I'll say it. Hey, how many United States citizens do you believe have read the Constitution of the United States?
Probably,
Same.
probably
Most of them
1%.
haven't.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Most
saying. So why would we expect masonry to be any different?
because
We
masonry is
should
supposed to be held to a higher standard.
be.
If you're a mason, you should be a higher standard of that citizen.
Oh, hey, look. I'm just asking the question. I've read both constitutions.
Yeah, I know you have. You probably teach it. I already know. But again, that's my answer, right? Like
Yeah,
look at the state of our nation. Is it better if more people had actually read the Constitution? Probably.
probably. Yeah.
Well, Aaron, back to the chat. There was a brother in here that says that he was raised in Virginia and their rituals coded.
As
Mm.
well, they must be
It's
some of the
coded.
smart ones. They must be
Well,
some of the smart
I guess they I'm not gonna go into the soliloquy, but yeah, they're a different type of slave, I guess, right? They're inside the house.
ones.
I guess we're in the field.
Must be just, man,
Yeah.
I sure does wish I was part of this.
Hey man, I'm too light skinned. I'm too light skinned to be outside, man. I'm in the middle somewhere. And you
Well,
definitely.
you're not gonna do slave trade,
Man,
y'all.
y'all are too much, man.
But look, seriously, like to their point, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I'm not gonna look. We'll leave the coding of our ritual for another conversation.
Yeah,
You can
that's
guess where I'm gonna fall on that, right?
yeah.
But should we make the learning and reading? Look, okay, maybe testing on it is too far. Maybe that's too far, right? But you should read it. Like you should honestly, what should be mandatory is some program like your Master Masons program,
Yeah, but you
right?
know what? There is a test in the Constitution that a past chairman of Masonic Education had. He made you do it before you got a Masonic education. It was a test on the Constitution.
Did they kick him out of the order?
No. He's still in. He's
Oh,
still
they
in.
should have
Brother
kicked him
Harris. Yeah, Brother Harris.
out. Oh man,
He
he's a
wrote a
smart
test. He wrote a test on the Constitution, and you would have to take that test in order to be on the Masonic Education Committee.
guy. Okay.
You had to take it. It wasn't optional. It was
And
not.
what is your perspective on that?
It was great because it really made you dig into the Constitution.
Didn't you just say you disagree with me on this?
Yeah, I'm disagreeing with you on everybody else. I can't speak for everybody else. I'm just telling you one.
You just want to make my life harder.
No, I'm just telling you what it is. But I'm talking about, so get on the Masonic Education Committee. The chairman said in order for you to be on this committee, you had to take this test on the Constitution. I have it somewhere. And I'll email it to you.
Lawrence is a really please do. Lawrence is a really smart guy. I have quite a few brothers that are in this jurisdiction that I am, super, super proud to say that I know
Mm.
and have had good conversations with. All right, let's keep it pushing.
Yep.
All right, the right to seek redress and appeal decisions made by your lodge or Grand Lodge. That's your right. We don't need to go too deep into that.
No.
The eligibility to receive Masonic charity and support in times of genuine distress. I don't know how many brothers know they have that.
I don't know, but that's still something that has to go to the board of directors, and the craft should know. But it is your right. But brothers don't know that they have that right to go to the Grand Lodge in a time of distress.
I mean, man, like you can't pay your gas is about to get cut off.
Yeah,
You're really having a hard time. Your gas is getting ready to get cut off.
yeah,
You have facility through this organization to submit a request for charity as a
Yeah.
master, not as a fellow craft. You don't
Yeah.
have that as a fellow craft.
yeah.
You do not have that as an apprentice. But as a master mason, you have that right to receive support from your craft. And I had this. This was a part of a conversation I was having earlier. A lot of brothers will find themselves in distress and they will be too proud to ask for help,
Mhm.
or they don't know they can't ask for it, right? But
Yeah.
that is a thing. That listen, that's a basic right of a mason, and you should be aware of that, right? I'd say the other right that you have beyond monetary support, um, a right and benefit, I believe, of being a master mason is the ability to get good counsel. You may have something going on in your life that is not monetary; it might be emotional or spiritual, and you should lean on your craft for that. And you don't have to be a master mason for that. All right, next. Oh, this is fun. Responsibilities of membership. Membership is not just about rights. It is
Mhm.
also about responsibilities. Oh
Okay,
boy.
unpack it. Let me step away
I
for a
sent a
second.
letter to my lodge today about this. I sent a really long, I sent a book to my lodge about this.
Yeah.
Uh, Regular attendance and active participation. I'm going to go through them all and we'll come back. Staying current on dues and financial obligations.
Mm.
Adhering strictly to the moral, ethical, and ritual standards expected of every Mason. So much meat here. Participation in charitable activities and community service. Oh boy. Ongoing education. Studying the Constitution, ritual, and history of Freemasonry. I'm going to say that again. Can I say it again, guys?
Yeah.
Part of the Constitution. You have a responsibility of ongoing education, including
Mhm.
studying the Constitution,
Mm.
the ritual, and the history of Freemasonry. Your lodge and jurisdiction rely upon every brother taking these responsibilities seriously to maintain a strong, vibrant, and respected Masonic community. Back to the top of the list.
Yeah.
Regular attendance and active participation in your lodge. What you got, Trey?
I mean, that is the, I won't say the struggle, but that is a point of, how do I say, not a pain point, but a point of understanding. Like we every, I would imagine every lodge, no matter what jurisdiction, has a desire to have more members in the chairs than what are actually showing up, every meeting or in a minute meeting. Is that a reflection of, them not fulfilling their obligation? No, I don't believe so. I don't believe that is.
It
Life
is.
happens.
It
Life
can
gets in the
be.
way. Vocations, yeah, all that good stuff. So, I'm a little bit indifferent on that. Although I think that any master mason, or any mason for that matter, um, has a desire to want to be there with his brothers, because that is a place of growth. It is. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
But do we
Doc?
give brothers a reason to want to come back though?
Like I said, Ro, like I don't think it's a matter. Well, yes, there's some who don't participate, but that's not to say that they don't desire to participate to a degree. There's some things happen in life which remove your ability to attend those meetings,
Of course.
and some of those events as well, but they continue to pay their dues on time, and they participate and support in the shadows, which is not not a bad thing.
No.
And I get it. The reason, giving them a reason to come back. Yeah, I, I think we've talked about that ad nauseum.
Mhm.
Education is a piece of it. The fellowship is a piece of it. The conduct of business is a piece of it. How we do that? Are we efficient? Are we bringing up, things that are irrelevant, self-sabotaging? Like those things are all realities of any organization.
Mhm.
So I don't think masonry is any different. I'll tell you right now, if I didn't have to go to half the meetings at my job, I wouldn't go. You know
Yeah.
that
Well, we
doesn't mean
talk,
I don't enjoy my job.
did we talk about the 80-20% rule on this
Mhm.
show?
We did last week. We kind of touched on it.
It's the same thing, right? Like I can tell you what I've noticed. It's 20%. It's 20% or less of the brothers that come in.
Yeah.
We try to talk to the guys as the profanes as they are coming into the lodge that this is a service organization,
Mhm.
right? And some part of that service means that you show up at your lodge and participate, right? But even still, look, life my lodge is filled with active musicians, for instance. I have a guy who's on tour for 6 months or more out of the year, right?
Mhm.
And I cannot expect him to show up to lodge meetings when he's on tour, but he comes when he can.
One or two of those guys we need to get on here.
Yeah, and I got a question too on this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got a question on this. Sorry. So if it's this big of a deal and this such a big issue, why are lodges not putting, or Grand Lodge is putting in their constitutions requirements? I get it. There's requirements for Grand Lodge officers to attend X amount of meetings, but why isn't it for regular master mason?
I don't
Because
know.
I think it's too high a bar
Yeah.
to
It
set.
is.
And Raul said it earlier, right? Like there's been conversation, but a lot of times guys just want to be Masons, and I
Yeah.
don't have really a big problem with that. You pay your dues, and you want to have a badge on your car, wear a jacket or a hat or whatever, and go out and wear a ring, tell people you're a master Mason. I don't care about. As many kinds of Masons as there are Masonry as there are Masons. My
Hmm.
right,
Mhm.
but we want more participation, right? Like we do. You know what? So my letter today was less about the fact that brothers are not. We get the same guys. We get the same guys. The guys that come to the meeting are the guys that come to meetings. I can
That's-
tell you who's going to be at
Every
the
lodge
meeting,
is the same. Every lodge has some. They take on the same
right?
persona.
And
Uh,
every now and then, some brothers that like, man, I really, I wanted to come in. I want to check you guys, miss you guys, and we miss them too, and we don't give them a hard time about it. Man, it's good to see you.
yeah.
But when we have things like degrees,
It should be
participation,
all hands on deck. Yeah.
all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Like, and there's a degree. Because here's the thing, if you're working or if you're in school or if you've got some major family thing to do, your priority. You have to do that. It's in our obligation. We say so. But if you're going on beach day or you're going to hang out or you're going to Netflix and chill or whatever it is that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
schedule it around your degree. Make the degree. Because this is a respect that you're showing to the brothers that are wanting to be in communion with you. They're new.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree wholeheartedly. I do want to give credence to the chat. There was a comment put in the chat. If you want to be a voting member, constitutional knowledge is necessary.
Mm.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
But I think that's true in the United States. So
Well, just like we talked about, yeah, but to be on Masonic
Yeah.
education, again, you have to take the constitutional test,
1,000%.
and
But if
you
you want to be
can't
a
be on.
voting member, you should at least know what you're doing. You should know
let's
what you should be able to be conversant at the very minimum.
let's clarify that though. Let's clarify that though. You should know the Constitution to be a voting member of what?
You're talking about the Grand
Your
Lodge, the
oh,
Grand
the
Lodge.
Grand Lodge. Okay,
Right.
got you. Okay.
Right.
But even in
Right.
your subordinate lodge, to be an officer, you should know the Constitution.
I won't disagree. I won't disagree. I'm gonna
Mm,
push. I'm gonna push.
for all- mm,
I'm gonna push. I'm gonna push on. Staying
okay.
current using financial obligations. I have a lot to say about this. You know, I'm a guy who thinks that we pay too little. And I'm going to be careful so as to not sound like the kind of guy who feels like everybody has the same ability. I know that that's not true, but I do know most guys could probably afford, say, I don't know, somewhere between $20 and $50 a month for dues. Most guys,
Yeah.
right?
Fair.
If you go back to 18 and it talks about your ability, your maturity
Mm-hmm.
to be in the organization, right? Like there are all kinds of organizations that people reach for. Okay, Masons are cigar smokers. Cigar lounges. There's one very popular one down here. The membership is somewhere. It's a little over $100 a month, right? And then you still have to buy cigars. They don't give you cigars for that,
Yeah.
right? There's a bar inside of it also. You're still going to buy drinks. So that's $100 a month plus whatever you're spending on your cigars and your libations.
Plus drinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And there's a place next door that will bring food over, so you're probably going to order food from time to time. We profess to love this Mason. You go to any one of these cigar lounges, you're going to see symbols everywhere and people talking about it, professing their pride in this organization. But they'd be willing to spend more on the cigar lounge than they're willing to spend on their Blue Lodge.
It shows what the priorities are, though.
It does show where their priorities are. And so okay, so that's one part of what I have to say about this.
Mhm.
Like I would love for our dues to be more financially supportive of what we're trying to do.
Okay, I got a question.
And yep.
And to do what with? To do what
Um,
with?
to
Because
make sure that
Mhm.
somebody's going to be Chicken Little in our lodge one day because the ceiling is falling down. It's going to fall and hit somebody in the head and kill them.
Yeah.
We need money to maintain our buildings. We need money to maintain our regalia. We need
Yep.
money to support the craft. We need money to support what is our obligation as this community service organization to serve the community. We
Yep.
need money for a lot of things. Maybe we need money to buy a new building,
Yep.
right? Like, but we need the financial resources to be able to grow and thrive, and frankly, to have the appearance of attractiveness.
Yeah. And
So
I said that or asked that question. Sorry.
just look at our brothers. Look at our brothers from the jurisdiction that we're in. Look at those guys, right? And when we look at those guys, we get a different version of what you're talking about. Now,
Okay. But
just again, let me give credence to the chat. That's why I had it open. One of the brothers said most newly raised brothers don't receive bylaws
I
along
know
with the Constitution and the ritual. Some receive
it's
one or the other, which is the ritual.
dangerous. It's
And
dangerous.
so when we start there, my response to him was the leadership is failing these brothers.
Yeah.
So we can't
so
hold brothers to a standard if we're not giving them the tools to be successful.
I'm going to lean into the second part of my answer on both of those things because I think the solution for dues payment is the solution for rituals and constitutions and your bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
Modernization. Modernization solves a lot of problems. In terms of the ritual and the constitution and the bylaws, they should be electronic. You should have easy access to them. That you should be able to download them to your phone or to your Kindle. And they shouldn't cost $120, right?
They're going that way.
so
And there's a way there are plenty of ways to avoid it. As to your dues, what we did in our lodge is we made it such that you could pay with pretty much anything except for EBT. I think I've said this before.
Mm-hmm.
You can pay annually, you can pay biannually, or you can pay monthly. All you do is you put your credit card in or your debit card, and it will debit that card 12 times throughout the year, right? So it will break down whatever it is your dues, your overall dues payment is into a smaller chunk, which should make it easier. And a lot of times, like depending on what your dues are, you may ask a guy, listen, we want you to pay this right now. And if he's like a lot of guys in the body, he's in, 5 or 6 different houses. He's got dues for all these places, right? So
Yeah.
he's trying to figure that out. Plus, he's got his life. And let's not forget the cigar bar, right?
So
So
It's your
so
vocation.
so you make it easy for him to do that in small bites so it doesn't feel so
Overwhelming.
overwhelming.
yeah, I agree with y'all what you're saying, but I would also say that we're looking at it from one perspective, and that perspective is that we should desire to do these things, right? Although desire, I think, is half of it. I think another piece that we're lacking is education, and I'm not talking necessarily Masonic education, because everything we're talking about is business oriented. We're talking about how to run a business, how to handle revenue, and not every lodge has the ability or the acumen to manage such, right? And as such, we have a result of what we have. I'll use the other, the state lodge as an example. I went to I went to one of a retreat over there, and I was actually really really impressed about how the business that how to conduct business, the financial business of a lodge was done. Not only the financial business, but the membership business, the business of materials, acquiring materials, and how that was thoroughly covered through classes, right? And we don't have that. So a lot of that is just, setting the framework to educate the lodges on how to conduct this business and how to modernize, right? We've had a certain system for X amount of years now. How many of our lodges are really using it? Probably because they don't understand it. And I'll tell you right now, being one that's in it often, it's not very intuitive to a certain point. You have to understand how double auditing works or double booking works, and I don't think we have the knowledge or access to that. So I don't think we can put it all on the members. I think we can put it on ourselves as an organization too, to structure some sort of education in managing what that looks like. Because I think, to your point, every lodge is different. There's not an onboarding process. Besides the degree, there's not an onboarding process. That's why, for the new brothers who came behind myself, I have a library set up for these brothers, set up so boom, as soon as you get in, you get access to, the Google Drive. You have the bylaws. You have, any lecture material that's out there. Like that's like internal business. No one told me to do that. It's just a recognition because it's like that's something I wish I would have had. Let me give it to the next guy, right? But we don't have that standardization across the jurisdiction.
You know what? I have to admit that I'm remiss. I have this gigantic electronic Masonic library, and it has
Mm.
all those things in it. And I don't have it on a drive like that, and I will by Monday. I'm going to share that with you're absolutely right. You're 100% right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Hey,
idea.
add me
All
to that drive too, sir.
No, so
right.
here's the
I'll-
thing though, is and I'm gonna say this and so we can kind of push past this for now. But when we interviewed Damian Jack, he said one thing that's pretty cool and it stuck with me. He says we all meet on a level, we're just on different levels.
Hmm.
So we're asking brothers to be on certain levels that they're not comfortable being on yet. And it's
Yep.
up to us, right? It starts with this right now, the platform, the constitutional
Mm.
court, to give them just a preview from an unbiased, unfiltered look at what they should be doing. Because
Yeah.
maybe they don't know. And then
Yeah.
after that, the leadership in the lodge should should pick up the torch and pick up the baton and run with it after that. Because we've given them the foundational piece, at least a basic understanding. But again, we're all on different levels.
Doc, I'm going to push.
Okay.
All right. So your next set of responsibilities is according to the Constitution are adhering strictly to the moral, ethical, and ritual standards expected of every Mason. We don't need to spend a ton of time here, but look, your moral code and your ethical code, those are fairly, don't, you oath is the other brothers in the lodge and other Masons, period.
Mhm.
You should know what those are. You should be following those. Ritual standards expected of every Mason is, again, this is one of those things that can be a little sticky, right? Because now we're talking about proficiency.
Mm.
And there are ritual standards as set out by the Constitution. The Constitution tells you what proficiency is, and it tells you what you need to have in order to do certain things, to move in certain ways inside of our order. It does mark that out. There is not a lot of room for question. It's not ambiguous, really.
Mhm.
And you know, I can leave that in your lap because I know that you are dealing with that now. Doc.
Mm. Yeah.
So you want to just put a pin in it now, or you want to talk about it?
I read to put a pin in it for now.
Okay.
I
All
kind
right.
of
So
got
I'm
to.
gonna move to the next one then.
Yeah.
Participation in charitable activities and community service. Big deal. So your lodge should be active in community service and charitable events. The Grand Lodge is oftentimes involved in those things. One of the obligations, the constitutional obligations that you have as a master mason, is to show up. Nobody can do all things. Nobody can make it to all of the things. But as you have sworn an obligation or sworn oaths inside your lodge to your brothers, to your lodge and to the craft, and frankly to God, included in that obligation is the obligation of being present. So if your lodge is having a fish fry or they're having a book reading or whatever it is that they're doing, you are compelled to show up. That's what I got on that.
Okay.
If y'all don't have anything, I'm
I,
gonna move
I,
to the
don't-
next one.
I don't. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. All right. So the next one, the next one is we've already beat this horse, but I'll say it again: ongoing education, studying the Constitution, ritual, and history of Freemasonry. I don't think we need to say more about that.
No.
Okay. All right. So we're getting close to the end of this now. Part six, part six of seven is transfer of membership and affiliation. It is a frequent topic of inquiry among brothers. How do you transfer or affiliate with multiple lodges? All right. So the Constitution clearly provides procedure for demitting or withdrawing in good standing from one lodge to affiliate with another. Rules governing dual membership or plural affiliation, which enable brothers to participate actively in more than one lodge under certain conditions.
Mhm.
Procedures to follow when moving across jurisdictional lines, ensuring smooth transitions that protect both lodges and members. So the first one, demitting or withdrawing, there is a clear process for how you can demit or withdraw from your lodge and then move to another lodge. This is not
So
overcomplicated.
unpack the difference between the demit and the transfer.
Well, so demit and transfer versus demit and withdraw, just for clarity.
Okay.
So to transfer, is interjurisdictional. I am in a lodge in one part of the state. I want to move, or I am moving,
Mhm.
or I just want to be a part of a different lodge. I can withdraw my membership from my existing lodge. I could submit that. I would submit this to the secretary and the worshipful master of the lodge, and then I would ask my secretary to then submit my paperwork to the desired lodge that I would like to transfer to their secretary. Their secretary will review that. Their secretary will then come back and ask a question, essentially, am I in good standing? Are my dues paid up? You know, am I suspended? Is everything okay with me? And then the brothers of the lodge that I'm trying to move to will host a vote and decide as whether or not I'm a good fit for their lodge. That is transfer. Demit is extra jurisdictional. Demit is to leave one jurisdiction,
Go somewhere
withdraw
else.
in the same way, and then apply to another jurisdiction, not your own. And generally the same way as was described with transfer.
And
It is just that you
both
are
have
no
to be,
longer
yeah, both have to be voted on.
if you go there's another piece of the transfer. Truly the transfer, even the transfer has the Grand Lodge secretary involved. The Grand Lodge is still involved in some of those transfers, but for demitting, it is absolutely involved, right? The Grand Secretary is going to communicate to the Grand Secretary of the other lodge. And that process is it's an extra step, but it's an important step because they need to, or we need to make sure that all of the things are in place for you to be able to do that.
And it sounds mundane, but let me tell you, right, without giving up names to protect the innocent, there was in this jurisdiction, there was a brother that allegedly came from another jurisdiction. When it all washed out some years later, this brother was never a Mason.
Yep.
Mm.
His brother was never a Mason. He literally forged paperwork from said Grand Lodge to come here. It was accepted. And that is a problem. So that's where the demit process is vital to the point. Now, let me give you something else that happened recently. And this is me talking to the deputy. District deputy asked me a question. Hey, can I have an EA transfer from this lodge to this lodge? And if so, what is the process? Now, it could be just electronic, but there is something in the Constitution that we really have to unpack with that. And that's something that the deputy is going to look at, and I'm going to look at this weekend. Because there's
What is
nothing
that?
Transfer of an EA. We're not transfer of a Master Mason, transfer of an EA. Inside our portal, yeah, that can be done electronically. But the recommendation right now is to have said brother finish in the first lodge and then transfer as a Master Mason. That's the recommendation right now.
What if you can't?
Huh?
What if you can't?
Well, you can if you once
Oh,
you.
I'm saying,
once
what
you
if
get
that person, for whatever, what if he
time
hates the
wise,
guy?
yeah, time wise or whatever, it can be done on a case by case basis. But what I'm saying is these are the type of things that come up periodically in addition to the demits and transfers in the Constitution, which is talking about a Master Mason.
Right.
But you have to understand, brothers, EAs and FCs, sometimes either they're moving or military duties will have them transfer within a jurisdiction.
Look, I can think of a ton of different reasons why a guy might. Well, I mean, I've heard of this situation. In fact, I want to say we had some guys come to our lodge who were in a similar position. They were going through their process at a lodge in another part of the state, and they just didn't like the guys. They just decided they did not like the guys that they were going into the lodge with. The process taught them something about those guys. They didn't like it. They didn't want to continue, but they were already EAs, right? Getting ready to move on to their fellow craft degree, and they just want to do it there. And so they came to us. It wasn't a complicated issue, but I mean, maybe because I went through it, I don't see it as a problem, but I don't see it as a
No, it's not a problem. It's just you got to look at you get bits and pieces of information. You don't get the whole pie, so you don't know
Yeah.
what the whole story is. It's just
Yeah.
extenuating
For
circumstances.
sure.
Yeah, you only get, hey, this EA wants to go from here to here. That's all you get.
Or I think you have to communicate. I think again, this is a secretary to secretary. This is communication. What's the deal? Why do they want?
I'll have a talk with the district deputy this weekend. Matter of fact, I was texting him, and then we'll talk about what the recommendation is, and then we'll get the whole story. Once we get the whole story, then we can make a bit more informed decision. Because if it's not feasible for the young man to get raised at said lodge, and it could be just not a fit type of thing, and then we'll make a decision based on that at that time.
Okay. I'm gonna move on.
Please.
Rules governing dual membership and plural affiliation, which enable brothers to participate actively in more than one lodge under certain conditions. In our jurisdiction, you can be a member of more than one lodge, and you can do it in several ways. One way in which you can be a member of more than one lodge is you can be a member of your subordinate lodge, and you can also be a member of the research lodge. That's two lodges. That's dual membership.
Yep.
Right. You can also have an affiliate membership with another lodge. You live in the north and maybe work in the south. There's a mechanism for you to have that. I won't get into that mechanism, but there is a mechanism for that. You
Mhm.
cannot be an actual member in our jurisdiction of another subordinate lodge or two or more subordinate lodges at one time. That is not just an affiliate membership. The affiliate membership is limited because you don't have voting rights. There are a lot of things that you cannot do. You can go to the lodge, but you are more you're a spectator more than you are an active participant,
Yeah.
right? But in a true dual membership situation, you would have all of the rights and benefits, barring in most states that allow it, the ability to hold a seat, an elected or appointed seat in more than one lodge at a time. You have to typically declare what your home lodge is, and uh, that's your home lodge until you decide to make that different. In terms of so that's dual membership. I have to remember now. I talk about it so much. Plural membership um, is again it's extra jurisdictional, meaning you could be in a lodge in your jurisdiction whilst at the same time being in a lodge in another jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction does not allow that at all. There are many jurisdictions across the country and the world that do. If you were in a state lodge in our um, jurisdiction, well, the state lodge that shares our jurisdiction with us, you can be in as many subordinate lodges as you were willing to pay for.
Yeah. I was about to say the pay piece is the most important because if a brother
Yeah.
is willing to pay, that just opens up other streams of income for other lodges.
I mean, look, for a lot of different reasons, and I've heard quite a few of them. Um, our jurisdiction is and has been opposed to both forms
Mm.
of plural membership, right? Both inter and extra jurisdictional, beyond the research lodge and affiliate membership.
Mm.
Look, I have an opinion about it. And I think most of the people that know me know that I have this opinion about it, and it's mine. There are people who share it, and there are people who don't. But as it stands now, our Constitution dictates that this is how it is. And again, another opportunity. If you agree with it, then three cheers for that. It's already there. If you would like to see it change, there's a mechanism for you to resolve to change it, and then put it in front of the brothers during grand session and let them vote on it and decide what they want. Right? Um, that's that. All right.
Oh,
You guys have thoughts on that?
No, it's pretty. I don't. Yeah, that's we can't.
Straightforward.
We don't do it. It's straightforward.
Straightforward.
It's yeah.
yeah. Hey,
All right. Procedures to follow when moving across jurisdictional lines, ensuring smooth transition, and to protect both lodges and members. So we talked about this already, right?
We do.
This is if you want to go visit another lodge in another jurisdiction, there's a process for it. Get in touch with the secretary, who will then get in touch with the worshipful master. If you're interjurisdictional, same thing. If you can reach directly to the worshipful master, you should do that. But proper protocol, in my perspective, is to reach to the secretary. Let the secretary know what you want to do, and the best way to do that is have your secretary reach their secretary, do that communication, and then you can
Yeah.
clear the line, and the worshipful
Common
master will
courtesy.
be informed.
Just like in the
Common
chat,
courtesy.
it was mentioned earlier in the chat. Just common courtesy.
Common courtesy, real
Yeah.
simple, right? And less obviously, in most cases anyway, that's going to be less important inside your own jurisdiction. But if you're going outside of let's say you're traveling to Turkey and you know there's a lodge there, you want to go visit that lodge, then there's some specific work, right? I'm going to mess up the acronym. It's the KC, what is it? KCFC?
CCFC.
The CCFC. Thank you.
Yeah.
You have to go to your CCFC and you have to communicate that you wish to travel, because here's the other thing. I was telling this, we have a couple brothers, like I said, that travel a lot in our lodge. And I needed to communicate this to them because it's vitally important. If you go visit another lodge anywhere, inside your jurisdiction or outside your jurisdiction, if you're inside the jurisdiction, When you go, you are going representing your lodge and the worshipful master of that lodge, and you need to bring greetings from both.
Yeah.
If you're traveling extra jurisdictional, you are representing your lodge, your worshipful master, the Grand Lodge, and the Grand Master of your estate.
And so let me stop you right there. So if you're gonna bring greetings from the Grand Master, that needs to be a conversation with the Grand Master. So he
One
that he
thousand percent.
that he gives you the permissions to
One
bring
thousand
greetings
percent.
because now, just like you said, you're representing the Grand Lodge. So you
Correct.
need to have permissions from the Grand Master to bring greetings.
You are representing another jurisdiction when you walk into another jurisdiction into their lodge, and that's
Absolutely.
why your CFC. That's why having that conversation, because he's going to tell you,
Yeah.
he's gonna say, I do this, don't do that. Yes, you can go. No, you can't go.
Yeah.
Yes, we have recognition with them. No, we don't. This is what you need to do. This is who you need to talk to.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what you need to take with you when you go.
Yeah.
Right. So those things are important. All right. So I'm going to move to the last part. It looks like Trey, you're about to leave us. Is that right?
Yeah, I got to get going here.
All right. I'm gonna be finished in 2.2 seconds because this last piece just is common sense. Part 7 of this series is the importance of unity through membership. Membership is ultimately about unity. Our Constitution seeks to ensure that every lodge and every brother within it is aligned in purpose and practice. This unity, protected and defined by constitutional law, is our greatest strength. Harmony is the strength of all institutions, especially this of ours. It
Mm.
enables us to fulfill our sacred obligations to each other, to our communities, and to the humanity and to humanity at large. Remember, strength of our jurisdiction does not merely come from the number of members we have, but, and maybe most importantly, from the quality of the character and the sincerity of the obligations and the depth of the commitment of the brothers, no matter how large or small that circle is. This is the end of our exploration of membership and jurisdiction. In the next episode, we're going to talk about roles, responsibilities, and election procedures of Grand Lodge officers. So much.
Mm.
Before we
That's
close
gonna be
through,
good.
I do want to pay credence again to the chat. And so if you look at the 14th landmark, the right of every Mason, the right of visitation, it's to sit at the regular lodge and the unquestionable landmark to the order. This is called the right of visitation. That is the 14th landmark.
It
So
is
the right of visitation gives you as a master mason the right to visit lodges.
anywhere.
However, anywhere. However, again, there's interjurisdictional restrictions that you still have to go through those hoops. But the
That's right.
14th
Enter
landmark,
and extra, both.
yeah, the 14th landmark gives you the right of visitation. So
It
for
absolutely
the
does.
brother that said that, great catch, and we just definitely want to pay credence to the landmarks if we don't. So yeah, that definitely brings us to the end of the day. Very wholesome, in depth conversation. Trey was quiet, but I know he has to go. Um, and then we're gonna be right back in a couple of weeks with the next segment of this. Again, this is gonna be like a 6-part series, guys.
Yeah.
So just understand, just hang in there, and we'll unpack a lot of different
Get
things.
you through it.
Yeah,
Look, also, can I make a suggestion?
yeah. Go ahead.
If guys, if brothers or listeners have questions, submit them, email them in advance so that we can jump on those. Like if you have a question
Yeah.
about something around the Constitution or anything else that we might talk about, if we get questions, we can answer or
Trey,
try.
you want to give the email address the brothers can?
Yeah, yeah. It is the email address for the Trestle Board Talks is TrestleBoardTalks@gmail.com. That's TrestleBoardTalk, one word, @gmail.com. So yeah,
Yeah.
shoot it over.
And we'll look at it, we'll bring it up, and we'll unpack it. Right? That's this is you guys' platform, so we want to unpack those questions. So I agree with Aaron. Just if you have questions, going in the future for the next, we'll be getting on here bi-weekly to unpack the Constitution and other things. Email your questions in advance. We'll answer, and we're
Yeah,
going to give you an unfiltered. So I hope you're not sensitive because we're going to give you an unfiltered answer But if you're
You
expecting
said
us,
unbiased. You said unbiased earlier. I was like, who are you talking about?
Same.
We are-
unfiltered. I'm back to normal now. I was just on some BS, right? Same, unfiltered. But no, we appreciate y'all for tuning in because it was a few of y'all that hung in here and the chat was going back and forth. And I appreciate the banter in the chat. So that's what I was trying to answer and give you guys his comments and give you props
I
as
need to
well.
figure out how I can open up the chat so I can see it while we're live.
I literally just went to YouTube and another screen and just
I
muted
literally
it.
just found it.
Yeah, literally. And then because it's live, you already subscribed, and you can just see the chat going back and forth. So,
Look at all these folks on here, man. That's outstanding. I didn't know you had this many people in here like that.
well, it's a few of the guys have been really active in here today.
Yeah.
Brother
Anthony
Henderson's
is
always
on
pretty
here.
active. Yep,
People in here, man.
yep. So guys are in there being active and appreciate y'all. So stand by.
Yeah,
In a
I
couple
owe
of weeks, we'll
Anthony
be
a
back.
phone call, so I got to call him back. He sent me
Yeah.
something that scared me. It's gonna get me in trouble.
Yeah, call him after this. He sent me some stuff too that I need to unpack. So bro, hey, Fred, I ain't forgot about you. I got what you sent me, and we'll definitely.
I got it. I got it too. You just have to know that it made all the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. If you got the same thing, you know why.
Yeah, but hey, you gotta unpack it, man. Yeah, some more
Yeah,
of my
we-
brothers. We'll definitely see y'all in a couple of weeks, man.
Right.
All right. Ciao, brothers.